Hi, so welcome to a live session for June 14th. And let's see, I'm going to start with Nolan stuff. All right. So let me see here. Okay, so Nolan, I see that you hit the notes that we were talking about. Hey, Chandler, that we were talking about last time. This is your old one. This is your new one. The changes are relatively minor. I mean, I see the rims that are better. I think and the work on the boat as well. You did change the sky, which I'm going to talk about because that does kind of change things a little bit because this was the canopy was bluer here with the setting sun, and I think sort of the fills based on a fairly light blue sky with the sun setting seemed more or less appropriate. But when you saturated the sky like this and sort of darkened it overall, these guys are feeling a little bit cut out. They don't feel like they integrate kind of as well as these guys do. And I'm looking kind of mostly at his hat, really, and how that relates to the sky above. Like here, now this feels really blue against all this, yellow, orange, doesn't quite feel right. And that sort of led me to think about what your environment is. Or I mean, I know that's a backplate in your comp, but do you have a sky dome that's appropriate for this scene? Where there's a warm and saturated sun on one side, and it sort of is blue purple around, because I don't really feel that on the characters very much. And like I said, it came across a little bit better here, but I actually I don't really feel it so strongly here either. Like I would expect to see more blues in the fills. So I think first off, more of this color needs to come into the characters. I mean, that saturated color is mostly towards the sun, so it's like it's behind them, and it's going to be bluer on this side of camera, right? Because the sun's setting over there, or purpler or something. But right now I don't feel either one of those things. So I think there's a couple things you need to do. The sort of big moves is look at your sky dome, and it really should be pretty heavily graded from warm to less warm or purpler on the opposite side, and that should come into them. Yeah. So as far as more sort of smaller things go, I think given how bright this thing is, you can bloom into the edges more. Like you have a little bit of it here, but like even here and here, like kind of everywhere, really. Okay, and then as far as some value things go, I think there's a couple things. I mean, I like what you did with the boat, adding the sort of water colored reflection. It works better on this side because it's tipping towards the water. Here it's actually, I think it's a little too bright, and it kind of goes up too high. Like I would think that's closer to where the water actually is. So like these areas got pretty bright compared to where you were before. And I think you need to darken that a little bit. We didn't really talk about this last time, but on her, like this iridescence feels almost self-illuminated. Like it's really too strong, especially down here. So I think you need to darken all of this, probably all of it, because even this is too bright, but this even more so because it's underneath. But on top of that, like once it gets a little darker, because it got brighter too between your last one and now, but also a little bit more bounce from the water onto the underside of the net and her tail as well. And let's see. Yeah, I mean, I think, like her hair would have a lot more bloom on it, or it can have a lot more bloom on it. It'll help. Like this, all of it feels a little dark, in this setting, just a bit. And mostly, I'm not feeling enough sky, I think, on her. Like there would be more specular hits from the sky. And then lastly, we was a couple things. This area on him feels a little weird. He feels kind of sweaty, and I think that's because that little L of fill is probably a little too bright, and conversely, these shadow areas here are a little too dark. So you're getting a lot of contrast here that doesn't really feel like it belongs on this side of the characters, given where the sun is. It's a little too much. I like this extra rim that you put on her here. This bounce feels a little strong. And then lastly, their eyes. You really got to fix these eyes. His feels really cloudy, and actually his eye whites feel a little bit dingy, but overall, he feels like he's got cataracts. It's very cloudy, and I don't know what's going on with hers, but there's this red thing going on, which feels really odd, unless that's intentional. I don't think you want to do that if it is. So I did a little paint over of this earlier today that incorporates these notes. I mean, this is just painting, so you should do this, as much as possible in lighting. But so here's the difference. All right, I'll go back and forth. So this area I made a lot darker. Oops. It's not showing it. All right. This is cleaning up his cheek area and making him look a little less sweaty and fixing his eye. That's what it went. And then also kind of bloom, like bringing more of the warm color of the sky into the top of his hat, blooming over and sort of making you feel like that color is, the sky is above him is affecting that hat more. And then kind of the same thing on her hair. That's blooming over, but also I introduced a little bit of, I made it a little green. It probably should be more purple. Specks, kind of like specks from the sky on her, picking up in little bits of her hair. It brings down the darkness of that and gives it a little top, which it really kind of needed. I fixed her eye a little bit. I mean, that's probably not how her eye really works. I just painted it in real fast just to get a little bit more eye white showing and a clear pupil showing, and tried to clear that red up a little, but I couldn't really paint it out. So, and then her bottom. So the bottom of her tail, darkening that up, and then also, but at the same time, bouncing up a little bit of light, as if it was bouncing off the water onto the rope parts of the net. As yeah, so let's see. All right, so I'll save these out for you and send you them. But it's coming along. It's looking good. I think you'll be okay. So let's see who's here. Chandler's here. What happened to Alex? All right, Michelle, since you're here and we're talking about yours, you want to tell me what you did first of all? I mean, I see quite a lot of changes actually.
So most of my changes, I would say, are well, I changed the surface of the sea so it actually was more reflective, affected by the sky dome that I made. The sky dome is currently a ramp. I think I might be able to switch it to a HDRI, depending if I find something that kind of has that brightness. But otherwise, I listened to your feedback about that the light coming from the top was really overexposing the hat.
Yes, definitely.
And I tried to make it so overall the lighting was more blue because it was reflecting off the surface of the water. So everything is a bit more affected by my sky dome now. And I also turned on GI, which wasn't on before.
Okay. Yeah, I think all those things helped.
I do think that I like the coloring on the mermaid better before though, because now she comes off very flat.
She is very flat. That was going to be my comment. So I'm not quite sure what's making that happen. I mean, it's kind of all around. It might be the GI because this is pretty bright, but like here, this has gotten really flat. Like it's kind of okay here. I mean, she had a little bit more. This was a little dark. Like these darks don't feel natural in this situation. Maybe it's a little bright, but you know, we can work with this. But definitely her face, or well, actually her skin, period, but definitely mostly her face feel extremely flat right now. So you need to get to the bottom of that, like what's causing that. I mean, do you have fills coming kind of from camera, or is that all sky dome? Because I mean, also like these beads and things this is pretty bright. It feels kind of blown out, and at the same time her hair feels extremely dark.
I do have like lights shooting on the characters in pretty much every single direction except for backlighting.
Well, every single direction.
Like just like left, right, and then from the like a little bit in front, but angled from like to reflect off the sea. So kind of like in a U shape.
Yeah,
for both of the characters, but nothing in the back.
You may need it, but are they all kind of equivalent values?
Yeah,
intensities?
pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, then it's just going to wash everything out and flatten it. I mean, it's okay to have fills that are kind of all around because that's really how things work. Well, I mean, not really, but it's a reasonable way to approximate, you know.
I also another comment is that my fill light is kind of coming from the top left corner, and it does light up the boy, but for the mermaid, it pretty much gets completely eliminated by the large mass there because it's just
Yeah.
blocking that direction. So,
Right.
so in a way, I did compensate for the mermaid's lack of key by maybe upping the lighting around her more than the boy.
Okay. I mean, in principle, there's nothing wrong with having a fill that's doing that, and a fill that's doing that, and a fill that's doing that. But they can't be the same intensity or color, frankly.
Hmm.
You know, because then something like this is going to happen where it just gets dead flat. So you're going to need to, I mean, the one in the middle should probably be the least, but you're going to have to pick a side and make it slightly brighter. And I mean, they don't all need to be. You can use sort of rims and specks to get more light on the darker character as well. Darker, I mean, not necessarily in skin tone, but the one that's less lit. Because in a movie or something, both characters aren't going to be in a conversation like this, aren't going to be equally lit. One's going to tend to be on the key or more key side, and one's going to be on the more shade side. It's just how it works. You can't have keys everywhere. It doesn't. You have no hierarchy then, which is kind of what's happening here. This is getting almost tune shaded flat. So I would experiment with that for starters. Like if I mean, the boy's pretty flat too, I mean, not as flat as he was, I think. Yeah, it was more severe before. He's starting to get a little bit of shape, but I think, I mean, he's probably got the same triple fill problem. Like if you can fill them both with your sky dome relatively well, then you can start giving them shape by adding more local fills. Does that make sense?
Well, I think my problem is that I have too many lights around them. So
Yes.
I should increase my sky dome and then lessen the amount of bounce, I guess. The fill lights I'm using to try to just eliminate some of my lights around them and use more of my sky.
Yeah, it's hard to tell since I don't know where your lights actually are, but yeah, it sounds like that. Is you in theory, right? In open sea like this, your sky dome should do a lot. Like you almost don't need a key, especially for the kind of look you're going for, where it's sort of bright and evenish. But I mean, you don't want to overdo that. But the sky dome should lay a nice base for you. Where it's taking care of most of the heavy lifting of filling in the shadows and stuff, and then try introducing maybe one fill or two. I don't. The GI should, off that surface, should be kicking up some light. So yeah, I think you need to simplify a lot and then build it back up again. I mean, you can try that and just send me progress frames if you want, and we can talk about it as you build it up. But it does definitely feel like there are just too many lights, and they're too strong, and they're too the same, both in color and intensity. Does that make sense?
Yep, it makes sense. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, that's kind of I think that's what you should start with for sure. And then we'll build up from there. Okay, cool. Okay, Chandler, Ruby, you don't have stuff here, so I'm going to go to Erin then. All right, so Erin, this is where you were. This is what you posted. We talked about getting some volumetrics coming out the door. I think that kind of looks like it's just in comp. If it is, well, it's very magenta. Like the color feels significantly different than what you had before, which is, you know, a red or orange. And it's just, you know, it kind of feels like a big blurry patch. It's not doing, it's helping in that it's silhouetting your character, but I mean, if anything, maybe a little too much. I think, you know, you really should experiment with volumetrics here, because that character should be casting, you know, a volumetric shadow. You know, of some sort, depending on how this thing actually shoots out. Or, you know, I don't know if the light kind of more casting down like this. But in any case, if that's the case, then, you know, you'd expect a shadow to be cast on the stairs, right? And yeah, so yeah, try real volumetrics. I'm assuming that's not. If it is, let me know. All right, thanks. Angela, hi. I don't know much about this particular exercise, so and I hate to admit it, but I haven't seen Moana, so I don't know how this works in, and I assume this is kind of some kind of stagey thing. Your cool to warm looks pretty good. Things are getting a little weird up here with the fins on the eel. They're just really dark against that background. But again, I don't know how that's supposed to integrate with the background, or if it is at all. But at the very least, I would lighten it up. But as far as the lighting goes, this on next to this works pretty well. I'd be curious to know if you turn the key off, is there enough environmental ambient fill that you see something there? It looks, well, it kind of looks like there is, because I don't see any like blacks, but you know, unless this is totally stagey where it's meant to be, you know, there's a blue gel light over here and a warm one over here, then if this blue is meant to be somewhat environmentally related, then I would expect to see a little bit of that color in the shadows, you know, like in here. It's a little strong, but
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but I think that assignment
yeah.
that they're talking about is just taking an existing scene and commentating on it. I don't,
Okay. So I'm commenting on somebody's Moana lighting.
yes, I think so.
All right, well, it needed work. right, well, thank you, Michelle. All right, in that case, Raghavendra, let's talk about yours so fast. Okay, offhand, she feels uh, really brightly lit, like uh, overlit, I gotta say. I mean, I think um, like these. So like this area feels almost burnt out. I mean, it is burnt out, I think. Because I mean, she has dark skin, so you're probably trying to get her to, feel get a lot of shape on her. But I think in the process, you're actually blowing out her diffuse. She also feels really matte. So I think the problem is uh, you need to let her, you know, the light you have on her is probably, I'm guessing, really over cranked to try to get, this kind of highlight and shaping on her, dark complexion. But that's not, it's not highlight. That's the diffuse breaking. So with darker toned characters, human characters, what really needs to happen is the specular needs to come up, and the darker somebody is, the more the specular is going to show up, because the diffuse of the skin sort of sucks up the light, but the sort of coat and the surface oils and things, that doesn't change, so that reflects back more. So that's how you see the shape in a darker object or a person. The most extreme example of that is Darth Vader, right? I mean, he doesn't have any surface oils or anything, but he is a shiny black character. I mean, jet black, and you could put a Klieg light on him, and the black isn't going to change. It's just gonna suck in all the light. But the shininess of him is how his shape gets defined. So like, take a look at that. It's always ribbons of speck, and it's not that different here either. So I think that's the biggest thing to work on. Your background, uh, it feels pretty warm to me, given this sky, which is extremely saturated. So I'm not sure if you're going for like a really exaggerated look, but I mean, there's a lot of stars up there. So I'm guessing you are. But the difference between the hue of that and the hue of this is too extreme. You need to get some of the sky dome color into the buildings and the plaza here. This is really warm. There just needs to be like a blue ambient base to it first, and then you put your warm windows in, and then have that on top. The specks in her hair, I think somebody noticed, maybe with Chandler, maybe it might have been you, they're pretty hot. That they're a little too bright. So I did a quick paint over, and this changes things quite a bit, but and I brought the levels down overall. Like, you might not want her this dark, but take a look at, I painted in some speck, like I was talking about. It's a little soft, but it's on the upward facing surfaces of her body. Like, as her brow kind of starts to face up, and the tops of her cheeks, And then also like on the tops of her arms and fingers, shoulders, the things that are sort of more facing the sky, get some speck. Well, here, let me, if you turn it off, this is kind of, I just kind of did some level stuff from yours, but then the addition of the speck is what starts to, pick her up. Now, I may have gone too dark for you. Here, let's split the difference, but still adding the specular gives her more shape. And then this is getting at least some blue into the background. And again, this is just painted in, so it needs to be done, with the lighting. Okay, I will save this out and send this to you as well. Yeah, so that's everybody that posted in the last couple of days. And let's see, Ruby and Chandler, you guys are here. Is there anything you want to talk about?
I'll just here just to listen and see how you critique everything. So
Chandler, how those ball man things coming?
I went to a different. I'm doing another asset, which I'm working on. Hopefully, I'll have something by next section we have Thursday. So
did you slug a character into your existing scenes, or are you starting something completely new?
Something new. The wall man was something for me just to kind of experiment. So when you said just use a character, I was like, I think that's right. So let me just work on a character and hopefully I'll have something. So
Ruby, how's yours going?
It's going fine. I had like a sidetrack because I was working on another animation. But I can't show it on like for recordings. But yeah, I would love also like to have your input. Maybe I'll just send it private on the direct message.
Okay.
But yeah, I also like trying to do the other one that I can show like for maybe on I believe Thursday is your next live session.
Yes.
I'll try to have something done for sure.
Okay, great. All right. Well, thanks for joining, and post your stuff, and I will see you next Thursday, or this Thursday.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.